And so Destiny spends about a month with these rejects or so, trying to figure out why he can't use magic or why these rejects can't use magic. There has to be a reason. It's not just that the losers, which, well, they kind of are, but that's just my opinion, not actually the actual opinion. But anyway, so he reevaluates on what his father said magic was. Magic was the alteration of things. Well, his father does it by alteration of force. You know, changes it regardless of its own will. But isn't it possible that there's other ways of making magic happen, and that was why they couldn't do it? So he kept on working on maybe if he just asked it to happen, because he could make things happen with his voice, the commanding voice. So it's like, maybe I can command something to go on fire. And so then he concentrated on a tree, and it's like, burn. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So then in one of his, it's like, well, the tree might not know how to burn. Maybe I need to let it see how to burn. So the next day, at the tree, he's like, alright. So he mentally showed the tree an image of how to transform its uh, compound into fire, and he asked it to burn. And next thing you know, this tree is up in flames. Now this terrified everybody who could use magic, because when you use magic, you can feel the flow of the energy, and you can literally sense where it's coming from, where it's going to, and all that, so you give a chance to dodge it. Well, this one, since there's no flow in energy, it's literally a manipulation of the energy that's already there. You can't detect it. You can't detect who made it happen, so it's undetectable. So it took everyone by surprise. So these guys gain new respect. Now the downside is, uh, if you told when you command something to do something, it can resist it. So if I can't go tell a person catch on fire, because their mind like, I'm not gonna catch on fire. So they'll start smoldering or something like that. So in a combat sense, it's on an actual individual. It's not always the best. But since they were able to use force magic, is just not that good at it, they learn how to develop between the two, where uh, they try to convince something to happen, and then uh, they would add in their own little energy to give it a push. And so this became alteration magic, magic that alter, instead of being force magic, it alters things. And it had great potential, but it was only as good as the energy around it. I mean, because they really, if the thing that they wanted to catch on fire didn't have enough energy to catch on fire, it couldn't do it. You had to physically feed it, and then it was no different than if they would have used the other one, because then it's detectable and all that. So what they learned is, because everything has a will, even a rock, to resist, the less thickness of the matter, the less of a will it had, and the less alive it was, the less of a will it had. So using fireball, they started doing it the same way. Instead of trying to tell the item catch on fire, they told the air in front of it to turn into a fireball, and told it to shoot towards the projectile, which was very deadly, because now you had automatic missiles that it could. They gave it the ability to think. So instead of just having to dodge it, you had to outrun the spell until it ran out of energy. So that also made it deadly in combat, but also it took twice as long to make a fireball in that way than just forcing the energy around it to turn into a fireball. So it had its downsides. So you had two different styles of using magic now, which which made Prophet think he had the upper edge when it came to this upcoming competition. Now, the day of the competition, no outsiders were allowed on the planet due to safety reasons. So everybody who could not use magic had to stay out in space. So, you know, the scientist side, which sided with Prophet, and then the military side, which sided with Guardian, were both there. Now, what's really funny about this is you think of right now as Prophet as the evil guy, Guardian as the good guy. Well, Guardian is siding with the military, which you previously established was the evil people, and the good people, which you previously established as the scientists, are siding with the Prophet. And to make this even more funny is Guardian we pulled away because he wanted to study the effects of magic on the surrounding environment versus just creating spells and all that. But the side he joined with is the side that just wants to use magic regardless, and it's vice versa with Prophet. He's making up spells regardless of what effects it might have, and the side that he's on wants to study things. So, you know, it kind of just blurs and shows you that nothing really sticks to. No one knows why the Civil War is going on anymore. You know, it's been going on for like 50 some years now, 60 years. So no one really knows except that they're just enemies. And so they're on the planet and they're about ready to start the competition when the planet itself wakes up and comes to life for one reason or another. And it creates a barrier separating outer space from the planet, the atmosphere kind of like thing, and that's why it's blue, is because it's not blue because of the tint of the sun, it's blue because it's actually a force field where you cannot leave using magic or it will absorb you and you'll die. So the planet's ultimate goal is to find out why it was created, and that way it could create its own minions, mini planets, to do its bidding and, you know, be the leader of the universe or whatnot. Because the planet, obviously, one of the other several thousand sub-galaxy prophecies, I'll call them just for now, is probably siding with the planet, and that's its idea to become ultimate, is to take over research done by a different prophecy. I mean, it's really a good way of doing it. But so, some people try to leave the planet and get evaporated because they use magic to fly out. So then the Hobbit quote unquote side is done with. Now we're stuck with the real story, being trapped on the planet.